Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to topic 21. In this topic, we're going to be seeing how to provide shadows in our section. So let's get straight to it. Now guys, even for this particular section or this particular drawing, we are going to be using the drop shadow and the inner shadow to actually provide shadow in all of the areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this wall over here, which is basically our front wall. I'll double click on it and I will provide it with an inner shadow. Now when I'm providing it with the inner shadow, of course I'm going to keep the global light switched off. Now what I want is I want the shadow of this wall to fall on my wall. So I'll just go ahead and change the angle, let's say to 0 from this side, and I can increase the distance. And what I always like doing is selecting and then scrolling up and down, which kind of gives me a very easy way to actually see how much of shadow do I really want. And I'll just go ahead and provide this with a little bit of more depth. You can just reduce this slightly. So I just have this light shadow kind of just showing up over here. Doesn't have to be too much, but just can be there. Now as this wall is in front of this wall, there will be a certain amount of shadow over here as well. So what I can do, I can actually copy the layer style, and I'm doing this because the material over here as well as the material over here is same, alright? And I can just go ahead and paste this layer style. So you can see how those shadows have kicked in, and I can do the same thing on the back wall. So that's something that will actually give so much more depth to our drawing. Actually providing the shadows will actually show the depth in our drawing. And when we talk about this wall over here, which is the extra wall, I can actually double click over here and provide a inner shadow as well. And I'll switch off the global light and actually change the angle so it's from here. And I can just increase the distance as well as increase the size. That's actually going to just go ahead and kind of give a shadow from this side as well. And I'll just go ahead and press OK. So you can see how all of these have kind of just generated. And when we talk about our parapet wall, I'll double click over here and I'll give it an inner shadow. Switch off the global light, bring it from down, increase the distance as well as the size, and just something like that. And I'll just go ahead and press OK. So you guys can see how quickly we were able to provide the shadows just through inner and drop shadow. And we don't want to put too much, so this will just be enough. And we don't want to go and kind of build too much. So what we can do is we can just give one last thing, which would be to our windows. We can just give them an inner shadow as well. And what that would do is we'll just increase the size over here, right? And we can just increase the distance slightly. And what they're going to do is you're going to bring this nice dark look on the shadow or on the glass as well. And that's about it, guys, what we'll be doing for the shadows. It's a very little, but it gives a good depth to our shadow. And you can actually compare this with the previous topic where we had just finished giving the materials. And then now with the shadows, there's automatically so much of a depth. Now guys, the next thing what we're going to see in this topic itself is how to provide the spotlight. So that's something which is going to be nice, and it's actually going to provide us with artificial lighting. So what I'm going to do for that is I'll go up to the exterior glass and I'll just go ahead and create a new layer over here. So I'll just create first where I want the spotlight, or basically the spotlight head. So that's where the light source is going to be. And I'll create a new layer, and let me just go ahead and fill in, let's say, white color. So once I'm done with that, I'll actually be able to move this in a space where I really want it to be. So let's just go ahead and say here. All right, and I can actually kind of press Ctrl T, and holding Alt, I can actually scale this down to how much I want it to be. So I'm just going to scale this like this till here, and just put it till this area basically, and press enter. So you can actually see that that's where my spotlight will be placed. And once I'm done with this, I can actually now go ahead and select the lasso tool. So you see we have created a layer over here with the white color. I'll double click and name this as light source, right? So that's basically going to be our white box. Now I'll use the lasso tool to actually go ahead and create a cone, because we know a spotlight is essentially just a cone light falling down, especially if you have used V-Ray or any render engine in your 3D models, you would actually understand lighting a lot better. But let's just understand that if we have created this cone over here, I can actually now go ahead and create a new layer. And let's just go ahead and select an orangish light color, light, something like this, and just press Alt the backspace. And what that's going to do is it's going to actually give us where the light should be, right? So you can see how that's actually placed, right? Now what I'm going to do is I will just select this particular layer and I can just click on the normal over here. And what basically this layer does, it kind of creates a filter. So you can see if I click on dissolve, it gives this little pixelated look. Then I can go to darken, which actually would work really well. But then we can see different ones, which would be multiply, we have color burn, linear burn, we have the darken color. So the darker color is actually kind of making it completely invisible. We've got the lighten, we've got the screen, color dodge, linear dodge, lighter color, overlay, soft light. Soft light also works very well over here. Hard light, vivid light, pin light, hard mix, difference, exclusion, subtraction, divide. You can see divide automatically just kind of brings a negative look to the entire light. So I mean, it would work, but it's not the same color. Then we've got saturation, again not the same color, could work, not exactly, but not the same color. We've got just the color, luminosity, and that's about it. So I would suggest that we always use soft light because that kind of just lightens it up nicely and provides a very good look to our entire drawing. Now, once you have understood this much, you again have to understand that we do not need this particular area to be so rigid, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to press E, which is going to be our erase tool, and we can just kind of set it up to the perfect size that we want to use. And I'll just reduce the opacity, as well as I'll reduce the hardness to 0. So the opacity can be around 50 and the hardness can be around 0. And I can just do this kind of left to right hit over here. Now what I'm going to do is it's kind of going to hide the lower area, and you can see how I'm just kind of, all I'm doing is I'm actually just hiding the edges over here, not much. Now depending on the size of the light that you're looking at, right, we can actually just kind of, I'm just kind of doing this, and what I'm going to do is, because I have actually erased off a lot from the base, what I want to do is I just want to press Ctrl and T, and so I get this transformation tool over here, and I can actually just kind of drag this thing down, and holding Alt I can actually scale it on both these sides and enter. And what that's basically going to do is it's actually going to give this dark to light variant over here, and you can see it just kind of has, it's not very dark and it's not very rigid, but it kind of becomes dark to light over here. We can use a gradient overlay, but I would suggest that this is a much better technique, and what I'm going to do is just use the erase tool to just kind of erase off this edges slightly, a little bit from the center. And that's something what I would do for the light source, right? So we have this kind of a light source over here. Now if you still find it to be too dark, we can just reduce the opacity of it slightly. So we have this nice light color spot over here, and you have to understand the background is red. So if I do shift this to, let's say this, it would actually give a more brighter color. So we will see that now, and basically I'm just going to rename this layer as light cone. So I have two layers over here, one is light source and light cone, and what I would suggest would be is to create a group and just call this as spotlight. Alright, and we can select the cone as well as the source and just drag this into our spotlight, and I can just press Alt and kind of just copy this over here, and you can see essentially how that's working out to be, right? So we do have this kind of a curve over here, so we do know that the light is falling, and you can see when I shift it over here, we kind of can just place this wherever we wish to. We can just shift this over here. If you do hold shift, it's going to move in straight lines. Now of course I can enter into this, and you can see light cones at 57, so I can increase and decrease that over here. Of course that's completely up to me how I want to work with it. But again, once we have these spotlights kind of created for us, we can actually now go ahead and place these in other spaces as well. Just go ahead and select any one group put this above the kitchen area here, as well as one over here. And that's about it, guys. So that's basically how we'll be creating our spotlighting in these particular spaces. Now, how you diffuse it completely varies on how you understand or how do you want the light to look. But I've just used this basic curvature, so we have this dark to light fall. Apart from that, of course, the erasing is mostly on your technique of diffusing it. But apart from that, I hope you guys understood how to bring in these spotlights. And in the next topic, we'll be bringing in the silhouettes and completing this section. So I'll see you guys in that. Take care and all the best.